if you are doing something in Tamil Nadu, people were speaking in Tamil, so Hindi speaking person or English speaking person cannot understand their language. So how to manage translator in the venue so that you can get the right things, what speakers and what actually participants are sharing. So
particularly when working, particularly when working across states or multiple states.
Multiple states, yeah.
Well, so one of the important reflections for us has been that because this methodology is not a very structured one, when we go to the villages, we do not have a set questionnaire or a checklist or a tool which helps us to get the insights. So this means that the composition of the research team and the level of their understanding becomes very important. That is why we had felt the need to invest a lot of time in training of the research teams.
Most of the researchers were not experienced in participatory research. In our case, we trained, we identified people from various academic institutions. The senior students were coming in as researchers, and one of the expectation or one of the worry was that how much into the depth of things they will be able to go. But to my surprise, most of the student researchers that we had in this process were able to go to the depth of the processes. Probably our training really worked with them very well, and they were able to look at the deeper nuances and the root causes of the problems.
Each workshop was a learning for us, because sometime I realized that when we planned the whole schedule and any VIP person came during inauguration and he took like 1 hour, even the long speeches. So that was the big challenge to manage the very big person if coming for the inauguration and he wants to speak long speech. So managing that people were one big thing, and we did lot of mistakes to invite many big people in one workshop. So after learning, then we were trying to avoid the inaugural session very short, so that we can go directly in the business of the learning and sharing and learning and capturing the learning.
The local dynamics in the village also kind of affect the nature of interactions they have with the host family or other people in the community. Even though during our stay, the process, our attempt was to stay with one of the most vulnerable and marginalized families in the villages, but that sometimes it does not happen as planned, because the families where the research teams are required to stay with us, sometimes they are decided by the local leaders or the village bodies. So that also kind of influences the kind of interactions we have.
Two important points. The first is kind of the importance of the sense-making workshops, sense-making and analysis workshops, post-immersions, and how essential that is to generate the collective analysis and see the commonalities across villages with the researchers coming together who've been immersed in different villages, as well as what may only be unique to one of those villages. And the second is doing work on a relatively controversial subject and hoping to be a critical friend to government, but aware there's sensitivities of some of those results. So it's kind of trying to balance a relatively a tight line, a tightrope.
Precisely, yeah.
And kind of also understanding that in advance that these reports can take a while to be officially published, but building in more informal feedback to relevant actors and ensuring those take place. So feeding back to government at district level, NGO partners, government at state level, and national government in this case immediately, almost. And then, so you kind of counteract the challenge of a report needing to be finalized and have institutional sign-off from all the institutional partners.
And even sending back to the action plan to the districts, sometime because we had a normal practice to send the report and all practices within 48 hours to the districts. But sometimes we did mistakes and we were late in sending the reports and the learning for the district for the adaptation. But and it were not very useful for the district. If you were sending a report very late, then no use. So that we learned from the mistakes from the early 2 workshops, and then we restricted ourselves. I mean, with the help of IDS and WSSC, we will try to send the report timely within 48 hours so that participants can learn easily, adapt easily, and implement easily. This was the big challenge to how to do the follow-up with the action planning, how districts were doing. So, so what we did in India, I mean, every 2 months, we arranged a call with the districts, how they are moving, and if they need any support on any action.
One thing I think which has surprised us in the work in India at supporting rapid action learning workshops at different levels is the fact that it's almost exclusively government participants, which is relatively rare when we look across the other workshops and the other events we hold in other parts of the world. And it's been very much a government demanded and government participated process, which is great as they're very much the kind of duty bearers of this and those leading this, the program. So there's been great ownership of these processes by governments at various levels, whether that be at the district level or the village level or the state level.
A weakness which has been associated with this has been the lack of women. It's been quite shocking when districts send teams, how rare it is for there to be a substantial number of women. We've had workshops where they've come, all the people selected from districts, and where women have been less than 10% of those taking part. A challenge I would like to raise is that of feeding back sensitive information to government policymakers. We have faced that as a problem, and sometimes even delayed insights because they were so sensitive. And as a quasi-academic, I found this very distressing. Not to be speaking completely frankly straight away, but there were circumstances in which it was important that the elastic didn't break. And I think one of the secrets here is to try to involve policymakers right from the beginning, so that there's some degree to which, and the more the better, they feel this is their research for their benefit. And I think somehow trying to enable them to have relationships with them, which are relationships of trust, in which they don't feel unduly threatened, is an ideal to aim for. And it may be impossible in quite a lot of circumstances.
When you're delivering easy messages with small sample sizes, appetite for that is higher, but when you're delivering relatively challenging messages or messages which may contradict the official narrative, although the only way to capture that is through relatively intensive processes, but it can sometimes be more challenging, or people are even less likely to accept that that is the reality.
What is not possible for policymakers to dismiss is their own experience if they deliberately go out to try to get that experience, and if they follow the basic, very simple rules of debiasing, which are getting off the main road and wandering around and seeing what you can see in a day, then they're learning for themselves. They don't have even to tell anybody, but they can see what's going on in the field.